Alright, hey everyone. This is going to be the final Tuesday tip for January. I've made it 5 in a row, so that's pretty good. Now it's got like 50 more to go for the rest of the year. Yeah, so this week is going to be emissive lighting for bake. So this goes in with baking your lighting. And been baking lighting for a long time in games, whether we've been baking it to light maps or vertex colors or something like that. So even on the Wii titles that I worked on, we were baking lighting. And something that's always worked really well for me is that I like to bake the skylight first. So bake the overall sky, then add a directional in and see how my bounce light works. And then what I like to do is turn on the practical lights. So turn on these top lights up here, for example, to get some bakes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video for a second. I'm going to set this thing up back to where it was without any light maps, and then go through the steps of what I just said of, hey, what does it look like with just the sky baked in? All right, what does it look like with the sky and a directional light? All right, and then what does it look like when I start turning on practical lights, like these ceiling lights up here? So we'll take a look at that. So that'll be the process through this week. It's just kind of stepping through those and seeing what you can do with them and how to turn on emissive in your material so that they do get baked in Unreal. All right, so we're back in Unreal with no lighting applied, so no lighting baked in. So everything, you can see that it doesn't have light maps, anything baked to it, so everything looks pretty terrible at the moment. And this is the scene. It's all enclosed, and just a fast block out that I did in Maya, and everything has light map UVs applied to it. Just real quick light map UVs, nothing crazy. They're all probably out of scale and everything too, but besides the point. The whole point is to show baking with the emissive and everything. So let's take a look. So here everything's in the scene, different objects that are reused, and one big kind of model for the interior, and then another one for the shell. And yeah, so now we're gonna bake, but I'm gonna bake without any lighting, and the only contribution we're gonna have is from the sky. So I've turned my directional light to 0. It was at 6 or 8, so you can see what it looks like with 6. It shines the light in. So we do 0 here, and we can update our capture cubes. You can see everything kind of flattened out. They were still captured, had the captures from the lit scene. That's why everything was pretty bright in here, but now it has without. And with that, now we're only going to see the contribution when we bake. So let's bake. So 0 light 0. If we look at on lit right now, or lighting only, you can see it's just base colors. Nothing's gotten lighting yet. And let's light. So I'm going to leave everything as default here. We're not going to mess with anything right now. We can mess with a lot of these numbers to increase our quality. I'm probably going to want to up this number to see if it can give me better bounce lighting, because this thing is really dependent on bounce lighting. I'm giving one space for this thing to shine a bunch of light into. So let's take a look at it with just the sky contribution. So I'm going to go build, pull down, and I'm just going to use medium quality for now so we can test this thing out. So I'm just going to do build lighting only, and it's going to take a couple minutes for me. So I'm going to stop the video and let this thing bake, and then come back and we'll take a look at that in a second. All right, so we're back with our first bake here with just the skylight visible. And what you'll see is you see a lot of reflections in here, and you see contributions from the capture cubes giving some lighting inside of here. So let's take a look at this thing in lighting only. That way we can see what these light maps are doing here. So see the lights coming down from outside, lighting up the interior here, hitting the floor. Not really hitting the sides of these pillars, but bouncing in here. This may be because the light map resolution looks pretty good, but it's not catching right in there. But not a big deal, not anything we don't expect here. So that's that contribution. Now the next contribution I want to bring in is the directional light. So we could, go take screenshots. Let me take a camera. We could take screenshots here and then start to see what's dialing in. So let's take that screenshot, open that up, which is this one, and we can start to see what's getting captured here. So I could take one of this and then one with the directional light, and so on. So we'll do that. Let's kind of keep that going and taking shots from a single camera source. So take this one. Now we need to turn that directional light on, turn it to 6 as a starting point. You see it comes in real strong here, so we should get a lot of bounce off of this back down here. We should get a little bit of bounce in here from that as well, but we'll see what this one does overall. And the point of all this is if I do all this up separately and then take screenshots, I have a good understanding of what each light is doing to my scene. So if I want a stronger contribution from this directional light, I'll know that, hey, maybe I should bump this up to 10, and that will change my lighting. But if I turn on everything all at once, it can be a little confusing on what's doing what to my scene. So let's bake this. So this is another bake. So same settings, just bake lighting only, and we'll let this one go. Should only be a few more minutes for this one. So it's just hitting bake, letting this stuff sit, going and doing something for a few minutes and then coming back. All right, so our directional light baked, and you can see what happened. So lighting came down here, hit this wall, bounced back in here, up off the floor, and started to catch some of these pillars. The lighting here went straight down, cut in here, found this, and then hit this wall, and then started bouncing off this wall to hit this pillar. So we can see pretty accurately between the two what that contribution was. So if I pop back over to my camera, we'll see, maybe this is not the best shot to see some of those angles over there, but we can take another high-res screenshot here, and opens up in this folder, and now I can dial in between these two, so we can see just skylight contribution, skylight, and directional contribution. And if you're not happy with that, now's a good time to start changing that. Maybe this is not bright enough, this is not enough sunlight coming in, so I should bump that light up to 8 or 10 and see what that does in terms of my lighting from that contribution. But I'm going to just let and see what contribution we can get from these lights up here. So with these lights here, if I open these up, we can see that there are two materials on it. Right now there's the material for the frame and then the material for the light, and I have it called light on. So if I open up this light on, this material here, this is the same setup I had previously from the previous Tuesday tip about world space UVs. And now I've added an emissive slider here in the parameter, so I can up the amount of emissive this thing has. But I can put this back to 0. We'll just take a look at the material and see what I did. All I did was I grabbed from our diffuse, our base color, and I brought it down into a multiply, and I gave a constant parameter for that multiply. So right now it's multiplying against 0, so no emissive. And as I push that thing up, let's say to 50, it multiplies against that number, so 50 times all of the colors or values that are in the base color, and then ends up as our emissive color. Now, if I wanted to change the color and do other things, I could pipe in other options to change the color, or I could change this to a constant 3 with the color and just push that value around with those colors. But since I just want a white light, I'm staying with this. And the other thing I have checked down here on this master material underscore emissive is I have light. So I have use with static lighting, so that this thing gets used with the static lighting. So with that all set up, I'll save no. And with this one, let's change the emissive to 4. And what you can see is, you can see now this thing is blooming out and lighting up. Now if we go into our lighting only, it's not lighting anything. But when we build our and bake our lighting, it should start to cast in and get baked into our light maps. So let's stick with 4 here. Actually, let's do 8 just to push it. And save. There's our ceiling light. And so we will bake this now. Alright, so we're back from that bake with the lights and the emissive color. And you can see that it's not really doing enough, right? Well, maybe it's doing enough, how much we want, depending on how much we want cast out onto this sides here. This is the lighting only. If we turn it to lit, you're gonna see I've got some bloom settings on there that's getting really blown out from previous settings. So let's dial that stuff back, and we can turn it off even and see what it's doing. So you can see a little bit up there. The more of this is in the reflections than anything. And if we go lighting only, you can see it's not doing that much. So we could probably push this thing. We could probably push this lighting on here to a much higher level. Maybe we try like 20 or something. We can see what that looks like. And then we're just gonna have to adjust our bloom and everything based off that. But let's give it one more shot with the much higher number. I guess 8. Let's try 40 just to see what we can get out of it. And so we'll push that a bit more and see how that goes. So lighting only, and I will go ahead and take a screenshot of this as well, just so we have it to compare against, to make sure we're not remembering things wrong. And let's bake this one out. So again, just build lighting only. It takes a few minutes to build the lights, and then check it out in a second. All right, so now with that much higher number on there, the 40, which is an extreme number, now you can start to see where these things are baking and the bounce light that's coming from them. And you can see that now they're also going in and getting more onto the walls in other spots as well. So with that increased intensity, they're making out to other areas. So take that screenshot here real quick. Go ahead and dial it in. So we can see one, just our skylight, one with the skylight and directional, then with the practical lights in there, and then with boosting those practical lights from 8 to 40 gave us a much different look. And so we can start to intelligently change these numbers around and see what they're doing. So maybe 40 is not the right number because I don't like that kind of mess that's happening in the back. Maybe they'll get cleaned up if I do a higher res production build with more bounces or something. But it's probably casting a bit too much light for me, and go from there. So probably dial back the intensity of the emissive to maybe like 10 or 15, and then push the directional light intensity up more so that there's more bounce. And to kind of demonstrate that, probably take this to 15, save that, and then take our directional light. I'll bump this to 10, and that should give us a bit more bounce and everything. And if we look at the lit version, now we're getting a lot of lighting going on in there compared to the previous. There's a lot of reflections and stuff going on as well, and messing with this thing. But so you can see some dirty lighting up in there because I pushed those emissive lights way too much. But that's what we can get with that, and we can dial up these numbers over here. We can add more bounces. We can mess with the quality and improve this stuff as well. So hopefully that's entertaining to you guys, and sees what you can do with it. I do want to show some examples of this stuff, some past examples. And these past examples here, these were Wii games for the Wii, so they're like 7 or 8 years old, and these were all baked lighting, the same thing. So baked to light maps, and this was for a cooking game for the Wii, and all these baked lightings in here. And this one was for Ghostbusters, and what you can see, there's a nice when we made these lights, they cast lighting when it bakes, and we've also added in some Omni lights underneath them, so they get a little bit more on the wall. But once you go fill a room and place these lights in there and then bake it, you get a pretty good result just off of that. And here's another. This was an iOS game, and you can see a lot of these are all reused. There's a very small amount of pieces for this kit, but each kit piece had emissive lighting in it that was set to bake in the lighting. So if we just populated the area, the map, with these props, they were already set up. And so if you put these lights anywhere, they would cast lighting in the bake, and they would cast lighting on the character and everything. And so it's very easy to populate and light a level at the same time as building it. So you can see down here, you can see the lighting bounce off this. These are all emissive textures, and sometimes they're combined with emissive textures and lights with them. It's a great way to light your scenes. So that's going to do it for today's Tuesday tip, and see you guys next week. And now I'm back, so just kidding about see you next week. I decided to bake it out one last time with the settings that I had mentioned, where I had talked about doing a stronger skylight, a stronger directional light with the setting and intensity of 10 to get more of that bounce. And I also did a some other settings as well, where I dialed back the lighting here to 15 instead of 40, and I also changed some settings. So I looked at the lighting example in Unreal in the Learn tab, and I just kind of stole their settings from there, just check them out. So this one makes it so the light maps are tighter, and then I did 100 bounces, indirect quality at 6, and you can see a huge difference in here actually. So now all that lighting is much cleaner. We're getting a much stronger bounce across everything, and we're getting the lighting that I kind of desired from the start. So if we look at this thing with the high resolution screenshot, let's test this out. So here we go. I went from this one to this one, and I guess my screen resized. So back to that. Oh, I'm in perspective mode. There we go. Back to here. Screenshot. And we'll delete that one out. And now we can cycle back. So just some change of settings, and I baked lighting at production quality as well. You can see a huge difference in quality. So just want to leave you with that instead of this. Leave you with that. Much better bake all around. So yeah, now I'll see you next week. And thanks for checking all this stuff out.